I call to order the Gladstone City Council meeting for August 13th, 2019. It's 6:30 p.m. Hello, everyone, and I hope everybody had a chance to go to the community festival this year. It was amazing. I discovered that I really have no clue what pickleball is, but it was very popular, and I think I'm going to have to learn. The one takeaway that I had from the community festival was the amount of traffic that we have in that area, so that's something that maybe we can talk about at a later date. This month is Traffic Safety Awareness Month, and school's going to be starting here in just a couple of weeks, so keep that in mind. Tonight we're starting with a presentation from Lieutenant Jim McFarland of the Scappoose Police Department, though he was recently one of our own. Our consent agenda includes approval of the July 9th, 2019 regular meeting minutes, approval of the June bank balances, budget report for period ending June 30th, 2019, approval of the June check register, legal costs on projects, department head monthly reports for July 2019, and to consider accepting a grant from the Oregon State Marine Board and Oregon Department of Forestry and Wildlife for dredging at Meldrum Bar Park. The one item on our regular meeting agenda is update on the city projects. And I would also like to mention that we do have one item on business carried forward, and that's to discuss the city attorney's services. Tammy, could you please call the roll?
Councilor Ripley?
Here.
Councilor Neese?
Present.
Councilor Tracy?
Present.
Councilor Reisner?
Here.
Councilor Todd?
Here.
Councilor Mercero?
Here.
Mayor Stemple?
Here. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we are going to start with a presentation from Lieutenant Jim McFarland.
Hi, Mayor. Represent the Gladstone Police Department. And once a year, the Gladstone Police Department partners with Shop with a Cop, and that's in December. If anyone doesn't know, we partner with the school, and 10 children are identified from John Wetton Elementary. They come down to the police department early in the morning on a Saturday. We normally have at least 10 people from the police department here, which includes our chaplain program and our support personnel. We normally have half a dozen school administrators or teachers as well. And we grab the kids. We usually take them in police cars up to Hales for breakfast. They're allowed to get whatever they want. These are kids identified to be in a risk or a lower socioeconomic position, so they're able to benefit from what we're going to offer them this morning. So at the breakfast, they're allowed to order whatever they want. They're given unlimited access to the menu. We then take them up to Walmart, and they're given $100 gift cards, and this is all funded through a foundation. The $100 is taken, and they're partnered with one officer, and they do their shopping. All those presents are brought, wrapped, and then they go back to the home, and they're bused back, and it's about a half-day event for them. On December 2017, we were at Hales, and the bill came, and the bill is quite substantial because I mentioned we have 10 kids, and we have probably at least 15 people with them, so probably 25, 30 people, and the bill is significant. On that morning, the waitress told us the bill was paid for, and we were confused, and she said a Secret Santa just picked it up. He was here having breakfast, and he picked up the bill on behalf of everyone there at our table, but she wouldn't identify him. So a couple months later, I used to go to Hales on a regular basis. He was identified, or she snitched him off, if you will, and I chased him out in the parking lot, and he didn't want any fanfare whatsoever, but he's here tonight by threat of being brought here in handcuffs. But I know I'm short on time here, but to make it even more of a partnership, this next year, Hales was out of business because of the fire. So we partnered with our own High Rocks restaurant, and the owners are Rolana and Mark Schroeder, who are also here tonight. I went up and explained to them what happens at Hales normally, and they decided to take this on themselves as a business here in our community. So that entails them coming in extra early because they don't open that early on the weekend. They brought in extra staff. They brought presents for them like Hales used to do, and basically mirrored what we've done and got into it. It's kind of a festive experience. So we used the banquet room there. A different 10 kids came, and we'd invited Rodney Forney to come with us. He was out of town, but he called and paid the bill once again in 2018 for the second year in a row. So what I have here is a plaque just to commemorate what happened with Mr. Forney for both years, and then this year our new partnership with Rolana and Mark Schroeder of High Rocks Restaurant. So if I get Rodney to come up for just a moment, I'll give you these. Council, this is Rodney Forney. He's a community member and a business owner, and there's a picture of the kids, and then a plaque commemorating that day. And then, because it's a long time coming, here's one from 2000, which again is a different group of kids. Yeah. So 2 of them for you. And thank you very much for your support.
Cool. Thank you.
Unsolicited support. I mean, we just phenomenal. And then if I could get, I don't think you've met Rolana and Mark, the owners of High Rocks. This was done over the phone this year because Mr. Forney was out of town. So they're the owner of High Rocks. We did the same thing for them. There's a picture of the kids at their restaurant. Thank you for your support.
It's well deserved what all of our officers, all our other guys in uniform, what they do for the kids around here and the communities. And you know, it's just a little something to pay back. You know, it's so worth it. And whoever's taking over your position, call me. Let me know. We want to. I grew up in in Milwaukee, basically, from high school on, and been here ever since. So great community, great people, and again, it's the little things that make a big difference for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When they could have anything on the
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
If anybody has a chance to tag along on one of those Shop with a Cop events, I highly recommend it. I did, and it was Sheriff Craig Roberts with 2 little kids, and he had to fight them to get gifts for themselves because all they wanted to do was spend the $100 on their family. It was pretty amazing.
Well,
All right, do we have any agenda additions or corrections?
I have nothing, thank you.
All right, so the first item is the consent agenda. Do we have any discussion?
I'd like to pull 7.
All right. Anybody else?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve consent agenda items 1 through 6.
Do I have a second? Motion was made by Councilor Reisner to accept consent agenda items 1 through 6, seconded by Councilor Neese. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 1 through 6 passed. All right, discussion on item 7.
So, question I have for the grant is when we discussed it, I think it was before, I think it was last month, the comment was made that we would pay all up front and then get reimbursed afterwards. And so, could you remind me where all that $400,000 or $350,000, $400,000 is coming from out of our budget if we're paying it up front?
Sure. So I'll have, I can explain some of it, but I'll have Public Works let you know where we'll be making the payments from out of the Public Works line items.
So talking with Kathy, our finance director, we're going to pull that out of, we can go negative in a fund. So what we would do is pull that out of parks, but then it would get reimbursed back into that. So even though it can go negative, we just have to correct it before the end of the budget cycle. There's a good chance that this won't happen this budget cycle because
Right, well, I
of
remember
our
that
conversation the
mentioned.
last time, because we still have to do all the environmental stuff. So we're so early on, we just have to commit to it. So if we commit, there will have to be some monies moved around and what have you until we get reimbursed. But that piece of when we pay and when we get reimbursed is pretty short. So it's not, it won't go past budget ends.
Okay, so like 2001 budget, or are you talking about the end of this current budget year?
The 21, yeah. So
Okay.
we might get started at the end of this, or who knows, we may get started early if they can get all the fish stuff and all the environmental impacts and all that stuff dealt with. But yeah, so it's not super clear, but the numbers will all work out by the end of the budget cycle, or in the next one, if it does take that long.
Okay.
And then in addition, the administrative time associated with the project manager will not come out of parks. That will come out of business development, community promotion line item in the city's administration budget. So when we get an invoice for that work, we will take that piece out of a different line item.
Is that part of what was supposed to come out of that line
Yes.
item, though?
So the PowerPoint that we showed council at the last meeting shows how we are spending those funds out of the business development line item. And I'm comfortable taking the project manager out of that line item for this project.
And that's 25,000, correct?
Up to 25.
Up to 25,000.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, any more questions on number 7?
I'd like to move to accept the Oregon State Marine Board Boating Facility Grant Intergovernmental Agreement number 1632.
Second.
Motion was made by Counselor Reisner to accept number 7 on the consent agenda, seconded by Counselor Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Do we have any correspondence?
I have nothing.
All right, so, as always, a couple of things before we start. First, for those folks that would like to speak, please fill out the yellow cards on the black table by the door. We have general business from the audience at the end of the meeting, not at the beginning, but we also allow public comment during specific individual agenda items, When you fill out the yellow cards, please state when you would like to speak and we'll call you up accordingly. I'd like to have those filled out now if possible so that we don't have any delays in the meeting. And as a reminder, we allow 3 minutes for public comment unless there are special circumstances and the additional time has been approved beforehand. And second, I would like to say a few words regarding the City Council. The most important limitation we have sitting here is that we are representing the citizens of Gladstone, not our own personal agendas and beliefs. There have been many times when a decision being made doesn't align with what we would like personally, but have made a decision based on what is best for the city as a whole. That doesn't mean our personal beliefs have changed, it just means the city's needs were more important. As we discuss and consider matters, there are laws and rules we have to use as the basis of our decisions. These start at the federal and state level, then filter down to our city's comprehensive plan, city code, charter, and ordinances. We do not have the luxury of randomly making decisions, but instead we have to be consistent and take a path that's defensible. And I want you to know we appreciate you taking your time to be here and participate in this process with us. And out of respect for others, please keep your discussions at a low level, please. And if you need to use your phone, I'll be more than happy to pause the meeting so you can finish your discussion or finish your text, and then we can continue on. My goal is to keep this meeting respectful and engaging. I hope you all can help us do that. Thank you. All right, first item on our agenda is number 8, updates on city projects.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So, what Tammy's handing out is when Jim Wynot comes up to speak, for his part of the presentation. We didn't have a second meeting in July, and that second meeting, was going to focus on current projects that I'm working on in administration with staff in that department, and also what Jim Wynot's working on in Public Works. There may not be a lot of policy decisions tonight that you're making, but I think it's important for you and the citizens to know where a lot of our staff time is being focused. So in your packet, what you have under item 8 is the areas of focus that I have for the city recorder, office assistant, human resources manager, finance manager, court administrator, and IT manager. as part of those areas of focus, you will see there's heavy emphasis on overseeing economic development consulting scope of work with Mr. Southgate, who's also here tonight. What I wanted to take an opportunity to do is we have our Metro Regional Solutions representative here, Jennifer Donnelly, and we also have the Acting Deputy Director of Department Land Conservation Development, Kristen Green, here. You've seen some email communications from me recently regarding Councilor Merceau's desire for us to go through a periodic comprehensive plan review. And I think what's important tonight is that you don't necessarily make a decision whether or not that's something that you want to do, but I think it's important that you understand all of the work that goes into a comprehensive plan review. And so I'd like to have Jennifer come up. She has a brief presentation that she wants to give you some information on. And then if you had any follow-up questions for Kristen or Jennifer in regards to the city taking on that project, that they're happy to answer that. Thank you.
While they're getting set up, curiosity question. I know you sent out his email to all of us. Is there interest from my colleagues in doing this?
Well, that's what think we're trying to determine tonight.
Oh, okay, because I
do that.
replied back that I wasn't, that we have too much other stuff going on.
Thank you.
But, okay.
I
I
can
didn't
let
know if anybody else had or not.
I can let Councilor Merceau comment on that if you want. That would be helpful for me to get some guidance tonight, because I think what you're going to find is it is a very comprehensive and expensive process. So, thank you.
Thanks. My name is Jennifer Donnelly, and I'm your regional representative. I work with the Department of Land Conservation and Development, and I'm also part of the Governor's Regional Solutions team in the metro area.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, members of the Council. Kirsten Green, Jackie mentioned, the Acting Deputy Director with the Department of Land Conservation and Development. Before that time, I was Economic Development Specialist with DLCD for a short time and 25 years in the private sector prior to that, doing long-range planning for cities and counties in Oregon. So happy to be here tonight. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Should we go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have just a short overview, and with respect to Council having a lot on their agenda, we'll try and keep it brief. We wanted to, based on the request, I can click if you want, based on the request that Jackie had received, we'd just like to present an overview of what's kind of entailed, to share the basics and to discuss an example work plan. Of course, you're not bound, so this is just an informational. Some of you probably know, and we're probably here in the, not 1919, go back, but not that far back. But we do have a history kind of land use planning in Oregon, and I'm sure you're very familiar with that. I appreciate the Mayor's guidance at the beginning of the meeting that we have, federal, state, and local laws to abide and your own comprehensive plan. So we don't hear that often, so shout out to you kind of understanding already how that nests in. Oregon's protection of exclusive farm use for farm and forestry use predates the land use planning program, so that's a long-held value in Oregon. I suspect you're familiar with that. 1973, some of you might recall, Senate Bill, I was also alive during that time, Senate Bill 100 creates our Land Conservation Development Commission, charging the Department of the Citizens of Oregon to create the land use planning program. So over 10,000 Oregonians were engaged at that time, resulting in the planning goals we'll touch on tonight. And that was before the internet. So the first 14 goals became effective right away. Local governments started to update their comprehensive plans. I think yours was it 1979?
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, you guys you were early. And LCDC acknowledges all plans. You can see some of the other jurisdictions took a little bit longer until 1986. There are 19 land use planning goals. Some are just highlighted there that kind of receive the most focus for the built environment for urban, cities such as yourself. I would highlight the citizen involvement, not just because it's what I did for 25 years, but it's because it is fundamental. You hear, each day from your constituents If you don't hear from them in the beginning of the process, you know you'll hear from them at the end of the process. So we do emphasize kind of possibly considering starting with a vision or a little V vision, but somehow being in touch with your citizens with respect to their desires for the future. Comprehensive plans are 20-year kind of framework plans, if you will. Some of the other goals that are important there, we heard a little bit about natural resources there, areas subject to natural hazards. We know a lot more about this than we did in 1973 with respect to Cascadia, with respect to climate change, with respect to flooding. We know a lot more about things like that than we did then. Here's the next 4 are really the urbanization goals, 5 if you include number 14, but economic development, housing, public facilities, transportation, and urbanization. You're not subject to the coastal goals, of course, so that's just a brief overview. And you have comprehensive plan policies that reflect those goals on the books today. So part of that state and local balance, I'll just speak for a little bit here and then turn it over to Jennifer, but the state, so it's very much a social compact, and it's subject to the will of the voters at all times, just as any sort of political construct is. There's a state and local relationship. So what the state does, and as the legislature asked us, set these 19 goals, local governments then respond and customize locally. So the state's land use agency, the Land Conservation Development Commission, sets those matters of significance, the goals and the Oregon administrative rules that are associated with those, kind of the rules of play, if you will. They acknowledge comprehensive plan updates, so we keep a library and an update, log. Some jurisdictions are not as familiar with their comprehensive plan as you are. We help enforce the goals when needed. We review plan amendments, administer periodic review requirements. You're not subject to that, but some jurisdictions are. And then provide technical assistance, which if you've received some, and we hope you'll apply for more as time goes on. So cities and counties, in their turn, develop a local vision, and whether or not you develop it kind of as a whole vision statement or you develop it de facto in parts by other work that you do, one can glean a lot about a community through its planning documents and how it describes its aspiration for quality of life, and that should necessarily be absolutely unique to the community. Local governments adopt plans and codes in compliance with the statewide goals. You enforce your codes and ordinances. You make your own land use decisions, and provide development assistance and fees to cover the cost of your services, which you're well familiar. Some of the basics of a comprehensive plan, I mentioned that it sort of de facto or proactively establishes a community vision for the 20 years. Can't sort of overestimate how important that touch point is with community members. You've been through some downtown planning recently and some other work where you are very much in touch with the citizens, so you know how important getting that balance right is, and it would only fit Gladstone. No one can port Milwaukee or even Oak Grove over to Gladstone. It's unique to your city. So comprehensive plans rely on factual basis and inventories. Jennifer will talk a little bit more about that. They guide the future development, your land use and infrastructure investments, how development occurs, how high, how long, how wide, how setback, a number of different matters there. And I might have a repeat. Oh, did I touch on this? So you did. Partly. Okay, we have a little bit of repeat. So the factual basis is important. When you adopt your comprehensive plan policies, they effectively carry the force of law. So they can guide your decision making. They're goalposts for your decision making. So when when applications comes in, you can rely upon that for kind of up and down vote or recommendations for change. There are statements, your goals and policies in your comp plan are statements of intent used to guide those implementing measures. And then the maps, some people are narrative, some people are map people. So you need both, but maps do also depict those zoning, and your development code, of course, covers height and other requirements. So Jennifer will speak then to a few more specifics, and then we'd be happy to just be in discussion with you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks. So I'm going to talk about the master plans that you guys currently have on your books, and then talk about an example work plan that may work for the city of Gladstone if you decide to move ahead with this. And again, this is just kind of an example. It's however you guys would want to do it. But I think you've done a lot of the work that would enable a pretty good comp plan without an extensive outreach of work. You have your public facilities plans are all pretty current. From 2014 to 2017, your sanitary sewer master plan, your parks master plan, which would be part of your recreation goal, that could be adopted into that. And then in 2017, you did your transportation systems plan, and that would be your goal 12. So I think from that, you would just need your goals and policies to go into your comprehensive plan. And then this year, we did a code audit. The city received a grant from DLCD and the state for a code audit, and that's not really part of your comprehensive plan, but I think it kind of sheds some light that there's a need and a desire from the community for goal 1, for some visioning of what the community wants to do, where their priorities are, and how those can be implemented through the goals and policies of a comprehensive plan. And then also, just touching on this, and I'll talk more about this with examples of work, Clackamas County also received a grant, and they did a county-wide housing needs analysis and buildable lands inventory. And through that work, they did, they looked at all the cities within Clackamas County, and they provided the cities with that information. They didn't actually do their housing needs analysis and their buildable lands inventory, but they provided that information. So that information is very, very current.
Which is not in final form yet, which
It's
is
not.
why they don't have it.
I was
just
going to
wanted
ask
to be
Right,
clear,
yeah.
so.
Sorry,
We just talked about it last
Yeah.
night, that,
Okay.
that we should be getting it soon.
Yes, it's being polished.
Yes.
So an example of work, and this is what I've seen work for many communities that don't. So stepping back just a little bit, the DLCD doesn't put communities into periodic review anymore. We may in the future, but right now we're taking a sabbatical on that because of funding and priorities. So communities have put themselves into periodic review, but it's a different process than the actual periodic review process where you work with a work plan, it goes to our commission. It's generally, you do a more informal work plan, working with your regional representative, which would be me, and then you would adopt them. They'd be acknowledged by our department through what's called a post-acknowledgement plan, as opposed to periodic review. And I'm happy to talk more about that process if you want, but I just wanted to be clear that it wouldn't be a periodic review. It would be a self-imposed periodic review reviewed as a post-acknowledgement plan. Clackamas County is in the process right now of updating their comprehensive plan, and there's a couple other communities that I work with as well, and so I've seen it work pretty well with a six-year plan, being the first year doing based on what I just told you about the current information, doing a buildable lands inventory, a housing needs analysis with the information that you have. So just be taking that information, fine-tuning it to your community if it's not how you want it. And then adopting the goals and policies for Goal 10, and then taking what you have, your transportation systems plan, adopting those goals and policies for 12, which is transportation, and then Goal 14, urbanization. But again, you might want to start all of that off with a visioning plan of what's the most important aspect in your community and the way you want to structure it. And then year 3 and 4, an EOA, an economic opportunities analysis. And I put that in year 3 and 4 only because buildable lands inventory, housing needs analysis is a lot of work within the first 2 years. It's not priority of importance. It's just that's the current information that you have to work with, and it's very informative. So in year 3 and 4, adopting Goal 9, economic development, and then Goal 12, your public facilities plan. And again, you've done a lot of that background work, so it's just working on the goals and policies. And then 5 and 6, I put together all the natural resources together. And I don't think, and I could be wrong, that would be a really robust lift for the city, because your Goal 5 and a lot of your Goal 7, natural hazards, and Goal 6 is that work has been done by Metro through their Title 3 and 13.
Yep.
So it would be really developing your goals and policies, reviewing that information to make sure it's working for the city and it's what you want. So with that was just kind of what I was thinking would work for the city, and knowing that comprehensive plans are a lot of work and they take a lot of time. So there's been a few other communities, I think Kirsten's going to talk about that, examples of other cities' work plans, such as North Plains, that have done the same thing, Lake Oswego, Milwaukee, that have kind of graduated them out over time.
Sure. Just a brief note. There are, peer communities that have done this, that have opted into periodic review. It kind of demonstrates a city's interest in updating its plans. It sort of, I would say, kind of gives you a different look in the competition for funding, when you're really a city serious about it, taking a comprehensive approach. Lake Oswego went through one. Theirs was kind of a really sustainability-based one. They updated, the economic development and the housing portions were fundamental. They were, really wrestling with the sensitive lands issue, so that was big for them. They have completed that work. Milwaukee is still in the middle. I'm not sure if you've seen flyers and advertisements for the city of Milwaukee's work. You don't have to do that flavor, but they have made a sort of a major investment to take I think again a 3-year work program to do that work, and they I think had a housing analysis and an economic analysis already done before they initiated.
They did that independently.
North Plains again had a sort of a very outdated set of goals and policies where they did not have any technical work, so that's a bit of a different flavor. So they needed to do their housing, their economic, their transportation, and they are now due to changes in the voter-approved annexation laws experiencing quite a bit of growth. So it was good that they did that base planning. They did start with a vision. My previous firm helped them with that. I would say it was a very modest level of effort, so it doesn't have to be, Milwaukee was sort of Milwaukee and Lake Oswego both invested quite a bit, so you could call around to some of your peer communities if you wish and just see what they budgeted for that if you wished. But I would encourage you very much to right-size it for Gladstone.
Yeah.
And what you need.
And then on that note, we do have our technical assistance grants available now. The deadline is October 1st, so if this is something you're interested in after a lot of discussion, this is a good opportunity to start with your phase 1 or the beginning of it and apply for a technical assistance grant from DLCD for it.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Just a reminder that all plans evolve over time, so you're not stuck with what you have. They evolve as the community evolves. And then,
So part of why this is timely is because we did get the notice yesterday that the next round of technical assistance grants is available. If you look on 8-3 there, under Development Code Update, myself and Mr. Southgate, those items that we bulleted there is the next phase of what we would like to apply for, which is to do a robust community engagement on the housing code audit piece that we just finished the first phase with. That's the path we would like to take. However, during that first phase, I've heard several comments from members or a commissioner and a counselor regarding why aren't we doing periodic reviews? So to answer your question why it's here tonight is I'm certainly okay with not doing periodic review, but I at least wanted you to know what the process is, and if this is a priority for the city, I will adjust and find ways to do that, but I think we're still almost a year out before I can even put a work plan together to do a periodic review. I'd like to move forward with applying for the next round of technical assistance to finish up our housing code audit that we're currently working on. But if a majority of you advise otherwise, then we need to make those adjustments.
How much was the grant for the code audit? Was that $125 or something like that?
For the housing,
For the code, the one that we just wrapped up.
It was only like 25 or 30.
Okay.
It wasn't that much. And what we do is we apply for funds. The state hires the consultant, and then the consultant oversees the work, and our senior planner did too. Then we created that housing ad hoc committee that looked at what the consultant's recommendations were, and they met twice. And then we had a work session with the planning commission, and that was kind of the timeout moment with, shouldn't we be doing our periodic review comprehensive plan update before we finish doing the housing code audit? And so now we're kind of in a check-in point here to gauge what the council would like us to do moving forward.
questions?
My questions are more of a statement probably than question, but my understanding is that it was a requirement to have a comprehensive plan. And when I originally asked for it, I was thinking and believing that that was a requirement. I don't know how far back, then a year or two or whatever, and maybe you can answer that question, but it's not required anymore.
Was there go ahead, please.
Oh, and I'm sorry if I gave that impression. No, comprehensive plans are required by every city in Oregon. And we used to have a schedule of an update, and it was based on the size. It would be every 5 years and every 10 years, depending on what the size was.
And that was the periodic review.
Right.
That's what's not required anymore. The comp plan still is.
Right.
And I
Right,
believe
you're
we
right.
did do a couple of the reviews, and they were essentially just rubber stamps. There was nothing really in-depth done about them.
Yeah.
If your conditions haven't changed, folks just
Yeah.
got a sort of a compliance check and
Yep.
were able to move on. So you'd be, as Jennifer explained, you'd be kind of self-entering periodic review if you wished. We're
Yeah.
not here to say you have to.
Okay. Now, the periodic review from history says that you best do it occasionally. Otherwise, you'll end up with what we got now, which, in my way of thinking, is almost a joke because we haven't done anything from way back.
79.
And so now when you look at it, it's kind of like a big comic book to look at to see what's really said about Gladstone.
Luckily, we have our master plan.
So if we decide to do it, I believe that it should be done periodically to just keep it updated. The reason for it, now that I know it's back, it is required, is, and I guess a question I've got for the council to determine what the real benefits to the city are. It's really a big advertisement in my mind, it can be at least, to why people should do business with Gladstone and or live here and or whatever. So from that perspective, the benefit seems pretty good. But also the numbers I've heard, which may be now over a couple 4 years, is someplace over $200,000.
Probably
I don't know if that's $500,000 or whatever, but it's pretty big. It sounds like. So if we decide to do it, which I'm not sure if I'm pushing for or not at this point, it's really if the council agrees there's benefits to in fact spend the money, then I really support doing it and doing it right. So, and if you haven't seen, I thought I had seen it before, but now that I have a copy of it, it was amazing what I saw. And it'd be interesting for all, if they haven't seen it, to look at it. So.
I would say, Mayor, if I may, councilors, I would say if you can achieve the brevity of your current comprehensive plan with your future comprehensive plan, you'd be a model for the state, because your existing is just 6 or 7 pages. The goals and policy statements really should not be lengthy, or no one will read them, so comprehensive plans in Oregon kind of went from the very the very pragmatic, like you have, to then very robust, where we were putting all the background docs and studies in there, and they became 200 and 300, unworkable documents. And now the fashion is to just really strip them back down and just have the goals and policies, and then adopt the technical findings by reference. But you kind of have a model in terms of brevity, so you can use that as a guidepost.
So,
Concerns?
so basically, I appreciate they gave us information. Mr. Southgate and I have a deadline of October 1st, and we would like to apply for the next round to focus on the housing code, community engagement piece for that.
One question on that. With what's been discussed, and I've heard bits and pieces of, and what we have seen, is that really Mr. Southgate's going to be helping us put together a program which really documents what we're doing at the moment, and for the next year or so. That in itself seems like a great deal of the comprehensive plan would in fact be documented by spending what we're planning on spending at the moment. So I'm questioning how much more we need to do to meet our requirements when we're already documenting a lot of it.
Well, our focus will be on the affordable housing piece and goal update, and also because we're severely rent burdened. But that's what we feel like our best path is, given our resources and time, is to finish up that affordable housing code audit piece.
Can I make a comment?
Yes,
You know, I'm new to city government. I just really makes sense to me as a business owner, such. Let's get to the next piece. I don't like this sort of going back all the time. I'd like to, and I know that's my sensibility, and I know that the wheels of government turn slow. I'm learning it more and more, but I'd rather just move on to the second portion of it. That would be my, and maybe put the work into it via that way.
Well, doing all of these supportive pieces is what, you need all of these really first so that you can create a comprehensive plan that covers it and makes sense. Because I kind of look at a comprehensive plan as kind of the 10,000 foot level, and everything that you have, the master plans support it. So we're going in the right direction by having all of our master plans in place finally. So,
and the next piece is your visioning, tourism, rebranding, strategic plan that's coming up this fall and next winter as well. So that's your visioning component that we're going to update as well.
Yeah. So at that point, I think then we can sit down and pull everything that we have together and then create a comprehensive plan that works for us. But I just can't see putting a whole bunch of time. And I guess my concern was, Councilor Merceau, you wanted the Planning Commission to do the comprehensive plan review. Was that correct?
Well, I've learned and understand a little bit more now, even though I was in the Planning Commission, that there's really more to it by far than what the Planning Commission can do.
Okay.
Because of all the surveys and miscellaneous other stuff, just to get the information.
I think this is definitely a higher level. Councilor Tracy?
So I have a question. So Jackie, you've asked for, I don't know if you've asked for approval to qualify for, or to apply for the grant.
I wanted you to know the areas of focus. I think it's helpful because we did get the grant notice yesterday that if you have a consensus, and that's the direction that we're going to go for that. But other than that, this is our, and tonight was a good opportunity for you to say time out, no, let's do something different, and I'm not hearing that. So I think we're going down the right path.
I think so.
I think we just need to move forward, just like what
Councilor Ripley, what do you?
I think we have to keep moving forward on stuff. I think anytime we have the opportunity for grants, we need to make sure we're getting everyone we can, since we can't afford much in the city. And I would hate to do something that could slow some of the grants down. A lot of these matching funds are so little compared to the amount we can get to keep things moving forward here.
Okay. And Councilor Neese?
I think we.
Councilor Tracy?
I'm good with it.
Councilor Reisner?
Same here. I'm with Councilor Ripley. Because my big concern going into this was that, as listed on page 4, that middle PowerPoint all the listing of the master plans that we've spent gobs of money on over the last few years and haven't done anything with, for the most part. I mean, we've used them a little bit, don't get me wrong, but that's taken a lot of staff time and future staff time on those, and to try to also fit in a master plan
Or a comp plan.
or a comp plan revision, I think isn't realistic. But the baby steps that's being proposed, I'm on board with.
Right. Councilor Todd? Councilor Mercero?
I'm on board with what's been agreed to.
Okay, so you've got the consensus. And I just want to thank you guys for being such great partners and allowing us to get these grants and helping us the way that you have, because I know for a long time we never reached out. And you guys were wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
So to continue on, I'll have Public Works Director Jim Wynot go over his list that he has. We just handed out tonight.
Good evening,
I need a
Council.
bigger desk.
Yeah.
So I have a running list of things that we have in the queue and a running list of things that are waiting to jump on board. And also what I added to my list is some of the areas of focus that we do that we really don't talk a lot about, but it consumes quite a bit of our time, just the day-to-day stuff. And that's what you see at the top of the list there. And I'll just run through some of these for the audience's benefit. And then if anybody has any questions while I'm going through this on what that is, or maybe some more detail, just let me know. So some of the day-to-day operations is routine maintenance of your infrastructure. That is kind of what we do generally, but it is all of our infrastructure in the city. Emergency response to infrastructure failures, which you guys all have been reading your monthly reports, and that's a daily thing here in the city of Gladstone.
With the lovely pictures,
Yes,
by the way.
yes. The pictures are priceless. The guys are doing an awesome job on that. Customer and citizen inquiries, we do quite a bit of those. We actually have a work order program that we're documenting all of those, and those help for litigation and stuff. For example, with some things we got going on right now, we document all those things, which we never did before, so we actually have a pretty robust list of those. Oversight and inspection of development projects. We have quite a bit of growth going on and infill and stuff, and we're really keeping our thumb on that and keeping, when we have a standards that we adopted, we make sure those standards are followed. And so that takes some time. Oversight and inspection of permitting in the public right-of-way. This is new as of 2016 when we started receiving some right-of-way revenues. What we're doing now is when PGE or Northwest Natural or somebody goes out and works in a right-of-way, they put the road back the way they found it or better. There's standards there. They don't just backfill it, don't compact it, which is a lot of the issues we have. That's why we have a lot of street failures. And so we got a complete folder of open permits, and we're following through and closing them out and holding them accountable if the jobs aren't done right. Our stormwater, storm system repairs and line cleaning. I can go into quite a bit of detail on that, but as you've seen in our monthly reports, we've been pulling out a lot of debris out of our storm lines. As a fact, we've been pulling out enough debris that I think once we get through the town I think it might actually be worth doing a stormwater system master plan update. That sounds big, but I don't think it is, because our system, when your pipes are half full or more, and they're basing a master plan on that, there's some misinformation there. So we are going through and we're getting through the whole city. It's our goal to get through the city in 3 to 5 years. We can get hung up on a line when the line's collapsing and falling apart, and we have to go out and do some repairs. So that's why there's a little bit of a window there. Then, of course, sanitary sewer system repairs and line cleaning. We do routine line cleaning in problem areas where we know we have grease and stuff like that. So we're trying to keep the backups and flooding out homeowners' basements and stuff like that to a minimum. And knock on wood, we've been doing really good there and haven't had a lot of those recently. Water system leak repairs, this is one of the things that we do pretty regularly, as you've seen in our reports. Water quality sampling, we sample our water in our system on an every other day basis, basically. We are constantly out sampling the water, and actually every day we're going out and we're checking for chlorine residuals during the week. So we're taking random samples throughout town, and you can tell water age and how to manipulate the system to make sure the water is safe to drink in the system. So our guys are out doing that as well. Street repairs, you've been seeing that happening around town. A lot of structural repairs before we did the slurry seal project. So we actually went out and just didn't slurry seal over soft spots. It's just going to pump right through. We went out and actually did repairs, so those slurry seal projects will hold up. And some of the questions we see in emails, and we talk to customers a lot, and if you guys get some customers or citizens that talk to you about why we are, it looks like a newly paved street, which it's not. It's really a coating to get to prolong the integrity of that street. So basically, the way we look at it is we're trying to save the streets that can be saved, and that's why we're not out putting a slurry seal on a street that's completely garbage and needs to be rebuilt, and it's got leaking water lines under it and all this other infrastructure needs to be fixed. So that is why we are working on some of the streets that can be saved, that don't look like they need to have any work done on them. But if we do this inexpensive slurry seal on top of the street, we can get another 15, 20 years out of that street versus having it go to the point of needing to be completely rebuilt in 10 or whatever. So that's why that's some of our rationale. Parks maintenance. We got, all of our restrooms around town. We do garbage 3 to 4 times a week. Graffiti during the summer is pretty elevated, so we do a lot of that. You'll notice down High Rocks we actually got that pillar all painted up, and we're trying to stay on that so it looks good down there. Our mowing hazard trees and all that stuff. A lot of the stuff you'll see in our monthly reports. Facility maintenance and repair. Fleet maintenance, and of course we got to keep an eye on the budget and finance stuff. So those are the day-to-day stuff that these are just never going to go away. This is stuff we're always going to do. Now what I want to do is to dive into some of the projects we have in the works. And some of these are going to overlap with the administration office. For example, the civic building construction. That is one of our number one priorities, obviously, because we're spending a whole lot of money on that, over $12 million. So that is our number one priority. And I do have these listed in what I think is the order of priority. Our Clarendon Community Development Block Grant project, which is happening on the east Clarendon from Portland Avenue 2 blocks up. They're doing a complete reconstruct of that. Water, sewer, storm, curbs, sidewalks, ADA, all that stuff. It's literally getting a complete reconstruct, which is what a pretty good amount of our the city's infrastructure needs to be done, is the complete. So then you're not touching that street again for quite a long time.
Clarendon's supposed to be done.
The project was supposed to be done at the end of this month. They ran into some rock, so we're in the process of we're going to be having some conversations about how much to extend it, so it will need to get extended. They had to chip away at rock around gas lines. And they actually found where they laid a sewer line under a rock outcropping. I don't know how they did that, but they had to chip that away and protect the line too. So there was some stuff that delayed them. So it'll be getting extended. I don't suspect too much, but those are some conversations that we need to have. Utility rate, public outreach, and water rate restructuring. We've touched on this a little bit. Kathy and I, the finance director, we are looking at all of our water accounts and historical usage, and we are trying to restructure the water rate to where people that are using less than the minimum aren't paying for water they're not using. So we are looking at that, and we're trying to figure out what do those rates look like, so that if we do increase our rates, the ones on the lower end aren't paying as much, basically. So we're still digesting all this data. We plan on having some information here in the next couple of weeks that we can present and kind of give you some idea of what we're looking on that. Another thing we're looking at is there are certain things in the water system that do not change. The cost does not change. There are fixed costs. If people use more water or less water, there are certain things that don't change. You're going to still have to pay the employees. You're still going to have to you know, maintain your reservoirs. You're still going to have to do all this stuff. So what we're doing is we're looking at trying to get the base cost to cover those fixed costs because it doesn't change, and then pay for the water you use. And and also in that incorporating in a conservation block rate. And so there's a lot of research going and basing it on actual usage. And so we're really digging in deep in this and to make sure it's a successful switch, and of course we'll bring that back and present it to you guys. So that is something that we got going in the works. The trolley trail feasibility study for the replacement of the bridge, that's in the works. This is expected to be done by the end of the year. We're just finalizing the engineer record RFP. We're finishing up the scoring on that. We'll have some information on that most likely by the end of this week on where we're at with that. The request of the Parks Board, we're looking at Meldrum Bar user fee research. So we've hired a consultant to come in and do some analysis on that to see what kind of options there are there and if it's feasible and does it offset the costs. And you know, we're bringing in somebody that's done this before versus us and not knowing exactly what we're doing there. The Oregon State Marine Board dredging grant, you just approved that tonight, so that's in the works. We're working with the Oregon State Marine Board and the Fish and Game to get that process moved forward. This was a 3-step process. You guys all remember we did the boat dock, we did the sediment analysis, and now the dredging is the only thing that's left. The Portland Avenue holiday lights, PG has some requirements where the lights used to be. We couldn't have them on poles of a certain size, so we moved them all over to one side on poles that were the right size, so we had to hire an electrician to come in and wire these to code, and so we're getting that all done, and hopefully we'll have that all done before Christmas comes around. So we'll have lights just down one side of the street, because if you look down the street, there's only one side of the street that has the big poles that they allow attachments on.
East or west?
So, I'm on the east side.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the side with all the large poles.
Snowflakes, 4-foot snowflakes,
Yeah,
or 5-foot
so,
snowflakes.
and that's going to be from Arlington to the senior center, basically, up to just shy of there, so.
That's probably the priority for the council,
Yes,
by
I've
the
seen a
way,
lot of
on
bright
your-
eyes there, yes. But the wiring is all done, now we're just waiting for PG to come out and actually make them hot, so, that's in the works. And they're going to have photo cells on them and all that stuff, so, yeah. Oak Lodge Water Services Intergovernmental Agreement. As you remember, about a year ago, we did an interim agreement to deal with some of the SDCs and some of the other issues, and so basically it bought us a year, and we're in the process of updating that IGA. We're kind of getting hung up on water because it's convoluted and messy. Our systems overlap and intertwine with both sewer, storm, and water being the most complicated. So we're trying to figure that out and what's best for the citizens. Yeah. We actually have some situations where we go out and read the meter and bill the customer, and Oak Lodge comes out and reads the meter and bills the city and charges us a higher rate, so it actually costs us half those meters because we don't have the water system. So why do we have them? So there's that type of stuff we just need to clean up, where there's a lot of a lot of mess there. We're wrapping up the slurry seal I talked a little bit about, and we're also planning on the next year. You actually have to plan a year for the slurry seals, because we negotiate with a slurry seal contractor with half a dozen other cities, and everybody starts putting their maps together, and depending on the size of that is how we negotiate a really good price. So we're already starting to put together our 2020 slurry seal project list. We're finally getting to near the end of closing out the senior center roof repair because of some issues we had there with the contractor. We got another contractor in, they're done with the work. We're just wrapping that up, and we're going to start. Right now we're working on getting the painting part of that done. So this was a 3-step process as well, where we did the HVAC system, we did the roof, and now we're going to do the painting. And the senior center should be in pretty good shape after that. So hopefully we'll have that done before the rains come. Contractors are busy, so it's kind of been interesting getting some people on board. It's tough. We have an annual NPDES stormwater permit, and let me see if I can get this correct. National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, I believe is what that is, these acronyms. So we're in the process of finishing that out. We gotta have that done here in the next couple of months, so that's a little bit of a process we're gonna work on.
Do we hold that individually, or are we part of the counties?
We're part of the big group, but we have to do our piece.
Our piece,
So, yeah, we
okay.
have our 3-inch thick three-ring binder that we have to
Right.
to go through and update. Yep. So those are the things that we have going on right now, and as these drop off, this is a pretty full plate, we're pretty busy with it, but as things drop off, we gotta start working on this next list of stuff. And I put these in the order of priority as well. We just signed an agreement with DEQ for a mutual order and agreement for reducing the I&I so we can quit overflowing raw sewage to the river. So we have got to get going on that. We do have some things in motion, but we really haven't done anything substantial. So that's got to come into play here pretty soon.
Curious, I was thinking about this weekend when Portland having an overflow. Did we with the big storm that came through?
No, we did not.
We didn't have much rain.
We didn't.
though.
Yeah, I don't think we got hit here.
I was in Hood River.
No,
yeah.
we didn't get hit with it.
Yeah, I think we got hit south and north, but we really didn't get hit here.
We got hit really Friday night.
Yeah.
But not Saturday.
Right. Yeah.
So
If
thank
we
you.
would have got hit like that, we the answer would probably be yes. Would be my guess. We have been doing some improvements, just nothing substantial and nothing really for meeting the mutual agreement and order, and that's some studying. We got to start doing some studying. We got to have a study done, and then we got to start making a plan to fix what we find in the study. What we are doing is we're trying to hit some of the low-hanging fruit to help this out. So we are doing something, but not full on. But that's something that's we got to get going on that. Water system infrastructure and sewer system infrastructure. In the water system in particular, we need to update our telemetry system. Our telemetry system is what tells us how full a reservoir is, when a pump to come on, and when we have issues. So we get an alarm before there's an issue. It is not very reliable. I mean, we have been notified several times, and we're down very, very low on water. So this is kind of high on the priorities, get this telemetry system fixed. And control valves. That's pretty new as of our last boil of water, because if this control valve was replaced and fixed that I'm talking about, we probably wouldn't have had that issue. So that's on our list to get going at some point. On the sewer system infrastructure, we did find a line that we think will help in our sewer overflows. We are having that designed right now. Down on Clackamas Boulevard, down where it dumps into the pump station, there's a line down there that actually has a big hump in it. And so water backs up in this thing, and it's creating these grease cakes and everything else that's really restricting the line. So we need to design a section between two manholes and get that fixed, and I think it's going to help our system. When it's all clean, I don't know how much it's going to help, because everything's going to flow good. It's just it's got that hump in the line. And when I say hump, it's not like it's a mountain. It's a hump enough to back up and surcharge the sewer line. Unfortunately, it's going to be kind of expensive because it is very deep. We're talking, 15 to 20 feet deep, and a lot of other utilities around, so it's going to be a pretty complicated line to do. But we are in the design process of that right now. Another thing on the queue is to do a 5-year financial planning. This is in conjunction with administration and finance, not just for Public Works, but for the whole city, to do 5-year financial planning. So that's something in the queue. During the budget process, I talked about our fleet replacement plan that was approved about 3 or 4 years ago. We have this budget cycle. We have the last 2 years of that 5-year fleet replacement plan. And as I talked about, I don't have the numbers right here in front of me, but I did talk about it during the budget process of how much we actually saved over the last budget, because we're not spending all the time and energy and resources on old crappy equipment. We're actually out doing work, and it's actually saved. The estimated money we were going to budget, it was less than half we spent on maintaining vehicles, because they break down, we don't fix them, we just get rid of them. And so this last 2 years we're going to be ahead of that, and we're going to have to spend a whole lot less. So the plan's actually coming together better than anticipated when it was implemented. Public Works facility plan. We're still in a trailer down there, and we have 1 bathroom to share with 11 guys, and up to 20 during the summer with the seasonal. So we've got some stuff to do down there, and we already have a needs assessment that was done at the same time City Hall was done, so we know what we need to last for the next 50 years. We just need to start putting together a plan on how to start piecemealing that together and start working on it. So that's something I need to get focused on here before long. And we did budget money to start looking at that. North Clackamas County Water Commission alternate water supply plan. So, if any of you in the audience don't know, the North Clackamas County Water Commission is who supplies the city of Gladstone our water. They are looking at an alternate water supply plan. So if there is an issue with the plant, how do we get water? So basically you do emergency intertie connections with other entities in hopes that not all the plants are down at once. So this plan is utilizing the old Lake Oswego raw water line that is connected on their end and ends here in the city of Gladstone. So the plan would be to figure out how to hook that into our system so we can flow water through our system to help support us and our partners with the North Clackamas County Water Commission. So that's something that's lingering out there. It's not at our discretion of when that happens, but when they start talking about it, the plant starts talking about it, we're going to have to jump on board and be part of that because it's going to involve our system. So that's something kind of lingering out there. Planning and Development Services RFP, this is something that was in administration as well. We'll be involved with that, so we'll, when we get ready to start doing that, that'll be something that Public Works will be involved in. I'm down to 2 more. I'm almost done. Water Environment Services IGA. Not sure when this is going to happen. It's just been mentioned in meetings throughout the last year that we have an IGA with in Water Environment Services, and it's due to be updated. So we kind of, at some point or time, we're gonna get sucked into updating that IGA. So we've done a lot of IGAs lately, and so I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but it does take some time to make sure we're getting what's in the best interest of the city. Park improvement and projects. So once we get the some fees figured out and how to raise revenue for the Parks Department, we're going to be doing some projects. We are collecting SDCs. We have the Good Neighbor program through Water Environment Services, so we do have some funds coming in, so there will be some projects and improvements in parks that the Parks Board is going to want to do, and we're going to have to figure out how to do it. I talked a little bit longer than I planned on that, so if anybody has any...
It was therapy for Jim, because I can't express how incredibly busy we are, and we love what we do, and we're very excited about the progress in Gladstone. But we want to thank you guys for your support, because we can't take on much more until we get some of these projects done. And we are so lucky to have Jim Wynot as our Public Works Director. And so, Jim, I thank you for everything that you're doing here, and you deserve an opportunity to explain to the council where all of your time is. So thank you guys for your support too.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else on project updates? Business carried forward is next, and it's the discussion on city attorney services.
So just briefly update you, this was discussed at your last council meeting, July 9th. Since that time, I also sent an email to the elected officials trying to stimulate some energy to build a consensus so we didn't have to wait till this meeting. Unfortunately, I only heard from 3 of you, and so it's back on the agenda tonight for your discussion. I just threw out some ideas, and if I'm being too assertive, please tell me, because the city attorney reports to the city council. But here were my ideas that I shared with you. We could contact the Oregon Bar Association and see if they would allow us to post the request for qualifications and or provide us a list of members so we can do a direct mailing. We can repost with the League of Oregon Cities, the Daily Journal Commerce, and the city website. We could prepare a recruitment for an in-house city attorney or reach out to neighboring cities for job share opportunities. You could contact BEH to solicit interest in maintaining the current services, or a combination of any of the above. So you guys are free to talk amongst yourselves. Staff will be happy to do whatever you advise us to do as the next step.
Discussion?
I have one question for the city attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to continue doing Gladstone, or would you rather not be involved with Gladstone?
This is
Chad.
yeah, no, it's not on the spot at all. This is Chad Jacobs from the city attorney's office. you know, we looked long and hard at the RFP, and we certainly will not abandon the city. Let me say that first and foremost. You know, if you guys don't have a city attorney, we will absolutely stick around and help you guys out to the extent that you need help. We viewed this as a situation, if the city wanted to make a change, that this would be a good way to have a clean break. So I guess the more direct answer to your question is certainly we will stick around if you guys want us to stick around. We have no problem doing that. But you know, if you also decide that, hey, we want to go try to explore other opportunities and things of that nature, we are absolutely 100% fine with that as well.
And I would assume that your rate's going to double when we make a mistake of
No.
taking somebody else on and trying to bring you back in.
No, not at all. And it's
Triple.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, what's
that was
funny
actually
because
for your benefit.
Yeah,
Dan.
no, it's funny because I was thinking about this driving over today, and you know, one of the things I just really felt that it was necessary to stress is that the lawyers in our office don't do this to make a lot of money. I mean, when we do litigation with other firms, and you look at attorney's fees and stuff like that, there are firms that charge triple what we're charging, if not more. There's, you know, paralegals who are charging the same rate that we're charging. And we do this because, like your staff, we truly have a passion for local government, and we care deeply about it. And so that's why I say, you know, we will not abandon the city. I mean, you know, there's not the firm has a very long history with this city, and we are certainly not going to just sort of turn our backs and say, okay, you're on your own. I mean, we would never do that because of that concern and because of that care that we have for local governments. But I think it's that care for local governments that we have that also made us take a look in the mirror and say, is this relationship really working as well as it does with many of our other clients? And I think, frankly, the answer to that was no. There's certain things that are going on in the city, and I haven't been out here that often, to be honest with you, and I came out when we were having this discussion, and you know, David asked me to take a hard look and give him my honest opinion about, you know, how is this relationship working? And you know, my honest assessment was it's not the best relationship. And I don't want to point fingers at any one individual or any particular situation, but there's just a lot of politics, for lack of a better word, that goes on that makes the trust relationship between the client and the attorney very difficult. And that's sort of the area, not the rates that I would like to see improved, but that's the area that, frankly, you know, that needs to be improved regardless of what attorney you guys use. You know, that's, right. You know, it's the hard look in the mirror, not only for us, but for the city. And, you know, I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot, but you guys have amazing staff. Your staff is great to work with. They're doing a great job. They work really hard. And so it's not necessarily the relationship that we have with staff, who we work with mostly. It's a lot of the stuff, a lot of the politics that goes on. And that's sort of the issue that I think you have with our firm, and maybe the issue you're having with trying to recruit others.
So I personally thank you for your candor, because now we can have a discussion about it, because I feel like in the past here, especially the last month and a half, it's been kind of veiled. Like, we're not able to have a discussion, because when I'm sitting down here and we're talking about this and I look at the costs and I understand others on the dais who have concerns about the attorney's services, I still don't see reasons. So thank you for that, because that's going to help us, I believe, have a discussion. Thanks for your candor, Chad.
And I second that. Thank you for that. As we discussed last month, you know, we've had the same service or string of service for like over 40 years, and which I've had a concern regarding, and I don't want you to think it was just here. It was when I was on the school board. They had the same accounting or auditor for like ever, which I questioned. So I don't want you to think it's just something unique. That so I did talk with Administrator Betts about it back when she came on board, and she provided me with a League of Oregon Cities publication, Guide to Recruiting a City Attorney, which they put together just a couple of years ago, and I think might help us. If I could read through Step 3, page 8, which is decide where to publish the solicitation. And my apologies, I just found this like day before yesterday. I knew you'd given it to me. I just couldn't remember where I put it, because I read it just a year ago, or last year. So They said, time required, they suggest 4 to 6 weeks for soliciting RFPs, but they say the most common publication in which Oregon cities advertise RFPs for city attorneys is the Oregon State Bar Bulletin. That publication will generally reach vast majority of interested applicants who work for local government, local units of government in Oregon. So that was bullet number 1. 2, some jurisdictions choosing include major regional newspapers, though that's costly. That's what it says here. 3, the Oregon Washington League's websites are another active resource for posting RFPs. 4, cities can also forward their RFP to the league's general counsel, who can post the RFP on the Oregon City Attorneys Association listserv. And then the last one is many cities publish in the city's website, which we did. And then, like I say, we were also discussing about a direct mailer. So that is what their suggestion as to where to advertise, which most of those we didn't. And so as my suggestion would be to
follow the guide.
To go through the, to do these,
so your option A, or the first option, I think is
see where that leads us. But again, we could come back.
No responses.
Right.
I think if we do it again and it comes back with no responses to it, then we need to take a look at why people aren't responding.
Absolutely.
Well,
and Chad kind of said.
I think
you got a little bit of that just a second ago.
I think it's sort of been
between the lines what he's saying, but maybe he should write a little memo to us on some.
How to behave.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we need to do it again, absolutely, and then see what happens.
Say that again.
Put it out again, but do it more specific. I did talk to 4 different firms and just asked them how they go and look for new business, and actually your firm was one of them. They said they don't go to Daily Journal of Commerce. They don't normally do that. It's usually word of mouth or referrals is how they find out that there's jobs available. So the places that we advertised wasn't the places that they look.
Will you give us a referral?
Yeah, well, and I can tell you certainly for our firm and the firms who do this kind of work, we're all involved in certain organizations like the City Attorneys Association, the County Council Association, and they have listservs. And I know that this RFP was posted on those listservs. So I think, it's possible that people didn't see it. It's possible that they were on vacation. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities. So I'm not saying that going out again is not going to make a difference. And certainly, a direct sort of solicitation may be worthwhile.
Yeah.
But I do know that staff did sort of reach out and do the typical channels that when we're looking for work or where work is noticed to us that we think about applying for, those places were advertised in. You're right. We don't look in the Daily Journal of Commerce. We don't look in the Oregonian. I would not say spend money on that. Frankly, we don't look in the Bar Bulletin. I mean, the people who are looking in the Bar Bulletin are not lawyers who specialize in this area of law. And you can certainly get a lot of applications from folks who don't specialize in this area of law and, with no self-interest at all, because frankly, I'm fine either way how this goes. It would not be advisable to the city just to hire a general practitioner to do this kind of work because it's highly specialized and you can get into a lot of trouble very quickly. If you want us to work with staff to give them a list of the attorneys that we know that work in this area, absolutely, I'd be happy to do that.
I think that I personally have a problem with that, and
sure.
Part of that is just because it's not fair brokerage, to be frank. And for me, what I'm wrestling with right now is that I can understand us wanting to seek services or find out if some other firms would be able to do some of this work. But where I'm struggling is we are temporary up here. The city's not, right? And what I'm concerned about is that we get out on a limb and we bring in a firm or somebody else who doesn't perform at any satisfactory level. Then what have we done for the city? I mean, we've really kind of left the city in a lurch. If we're really out there just soliciting firms to find out general interest, and actually we did a solicitation and found there was little general interest, then that's fine. I believe in that exercise, Counselor. I don't believe that we should just change shoes just to change shoes. And so when I do planning scenarios, I put together SWOT exercises, I put together strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and targets, because you have to come back and be defensible about these types of decisions, do we not? This one to me feels like it's pretty heavy, because this is basically our legal representation, and I think if we can go out and find somebody that will come back to us as a firm and say, absolutely, we do this kind of work and we're very interested in sitting down and talk to you, without it being a proposal necessarily to do the work, that's a first step, because don't we want to build that relationship anyway and not just take somebody on an RFP necessarily? I'm concerned about the legacy of this council switching our legal team, the potential legacy, negative impact of this council switching the legal team, not knowing who we're going to be involved with, and having that come back on the city at a time when we're starting to kind of pick up some steam and momentum. So that's my concern about it. What I'm saying is we don't know who's out there. We don't know the quality of service that might be presented to us. We do know with beers what we have for a legal team, and frankly, I guess I haven't seen as much. I don't have a consternation about it as you do, I guess, and I haven't, and it hasn't been relayed to me what the real concerns are with regard to our legal team.
I think I agree with you on that. Why else is going on anyway?
I don't know.
Was there a lacking in their performance, or was there issues?
I don't know.
Well, I have some concerns. Well, and obviously they do too if they didn't even...
Well, I think their concerns based on the quality of the relationship they have with the city. And apparently, I mean, it felt to me like Chad was candid enough. It wasn't with the city staff, it was with the elected officials in the city.
That's kind of where
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard too.
So I don't know why.
Right.
I mean, Neil, I'm asking. I don't know why.
Well, I can come back next week with a list, or next month with a list, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I am. I
Okay.
think your other fellow counselors are curious too.
I would like to know what the reasons are.
So.
I would too.
So I know,
I think it's mostly political at this point, and it's coming from one direction.
Well, I think that, yes, why don't you come next month with a list, and then we can talk about it next month.
And Mayor, I would suggest that we go out and directly solicit if we really want to potentially bring on a new legal team. Why don't we go out and do what everybody does in business, go shake hands, sit down with somebody, talk to them. I know that there are procurement rules that are tied to this, but I think we're able to still be able to have just a meet and greet, get to know you conversation. Am I wrong about that, Jeff?
No, you're correct.
Thank you.
Okay, that's how I think we should move forward with this one.
Appreciate it.
We're not under a timeline where this has to be done today.
I have one more thing. I'd also like to know what your concerns are. If there's a couple of your main points were areas of concerns that we should work on, it'd be nice to know what those are.
Again, well, I can just and I can just make a very general overview that I think a lot of what builds the trust in a relationship is communication, and I think when you have situations where if you have an issue of concern that you notify staff in advance so staff can work with our office and we can come prepared to address your specific concern, and don't sort of beat around the bush about what that concern is. Say, here's my specific problem with this particular issue, and then let us try to address it for you. And ultimately, you all are the decision makers. We're here to give you your options and let you know what your legal risks are, but it's up to you to decide what you want to do. But when you're not clear in your communication with us about what it is you want to do, we can't give you advice, and it starts to feel like a big gotcha moment. And that's that gotcha moment kind of thing that I think affects not only your relationship with your attorney, because it's extremely difficult. If you're not being honest with your attorney, we can't give you good advice, and that's very difficult. And I think it also creates a lot of stress for staff, because they come to meetings and they question, okay, what am I supposed to do here? How am I supposed to do this? And, do I have all the information I need to provide the council with the information they need to make a decision? And that's the biggest area that I would suggest that people focus on, is that communication and just being open and honest with what you're trying to do.
And to be clear, maybe I'm wrong, this isn't a brand new issue. This is something that's been going on for quite a few years.
you know, I would have to talk to David about that. I don't recall him having these conversations with me for a number of years, but I do know it certainly in the last year, which is sort of why I started coming to some of these meetings, is to sort of do a new assessment of that relationship, you know, from a perspective of someone who really hasn't worked with the city that much. And, you know, it was one of those things where as I said before, I looked at it independently and I came to that same sort of conclusion pretty quickly.
I don't think it's been the last few years. I think in the last year and a half is where it's really come out more. I am not comfortable with this, but I am going to ask if we're going to prolong this one more month and do this again, that next month, that's the final. We make a final decision once and for all, because we're dragging this out. We've got projects on the books, we've got things that we want to move forward on, and we keep pushing this down the road. And frankly, I don't want to see it continue.
And to be clear, I'm not landing on thumbs up, thumbs down, or one way or another with the current legal team. I'm just saying that I think we probably need to approach it with a different mentality so that it's more business oriented. And fair to them as well as fair to us.
Yeah. So is that all right if we put this on next month's agenda and have more specifics in front of us? Because it's kind of hard to make a...
Like specifics.
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's
feel
hard
like
to
I'm
make
sort
it.
of at a loss as to
Yep.
what's really
Absolutely.
happening. I questioned it when it first came up, why we were doing it, because there's so much going on. So, yeah, we can do
Okay.
that, but then I think it needs to be done, too.
Right, absolutely.
And I agree with Councilor Neese.
All right.
Stop screwing around with it, make a decision.
Councilor Ripley, is that all right if we hold this off till next month and then have specifics?
I'm good.
Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we'll do.
Thanks, Jen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
so next is business from the audience, and again, we have 3 months, or 3 months, 3 minutes.
3 months, yeah, 3 months.
Oh, we're going to be here for
3 minutes to speak. So, Tammy.
First is Bob Everett.
3 months is way too long. Okay, Bryce is gonna come up.
3 months is your average yearly vacation, isn't it? Twice a year?
Yeah, at least, yeah. I take vacation, 3 months, twice a year. Yeah. I'm ready for a 4-month after this one. No. Hello, everyone. So, good evening, counselors, Mayor. Jackie? Oh, she left. Okay. She left when I came up here. I'm here, just as I always am every year, to thank everyone for really helping us so much in putting together the festival. This obviously could not happen without a large group of people, not just us, but really the city at large. I mean, Tracy this year was fantastic. All the work that she and Teresa put in for the parade, and we got some great judges. You know, both the fire and the police chief helping out. That was classic. We had so many great comments on that. I thank the city. I do every year because without what you guys, the city gives us, this would not go on, and at all. I mean, you put up with us doing whatever, and we try to clean up all the trash and clean up everything that we can, and we hope we do a good job. And I always say this, is that if anything is a problem, come to me, let me know, because I want to clear these things up. I want to make sure that we have a good relationship, and this continues on far past me. I will single out one individual who has helped me every year in so many ways, and we joke about it because I often laugh because we comment about the ladies' restroom and the toilet rolls, but that's because I'm in there half the time. But that's Rex McIntyre. Rex comes out, I call him any time of the day, and he's out there to help me. He gets things. This year he did get some more supplies for the restrooms and for the other areas. If it wasn't for Rex, I don't know what we'd do many times. And so That's the one individual. There's so many, but the one individual who I have contact with on a regular basis. Of course, I always like to thank the sponsors and everybody else in the city, and I do hope everybody has a good time. I think the parade, the car show, they grow and grow all the time. The pickleball tournament was fantastic. The beer garden was well attended. Of course, Bryce, I think, did a great job as master of ceremonies. You know, him riding up and down the street. I didn't see it before the parade on his bullhorn was fantastic. What's that? Time's up. Okay. If Bryce can take a minute. Okay. Yeah. Because he's going to show these.
Okay. So you all remember from last year we had the community canvas, and this is last year, so you can all see it. And this year we have the new one, the 2019 community canvas. And I would like to invite anybody who did not get their chance to put a handprint on it to our Rotary meeting at the Senior Center this Thursday at noon, and you can come put your handprint on it before it all gets sealed and put into the memory forever. Chief Schmerber and I were talking at the parade, potentially putting it in the new police precinct and maybe making a years of community festival art exhibit that people can come in and see in our new civic center.
Very cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much.
Last is Bill Osborne.
Hi. First thing I guess I should mention, I have a solve cleanup this weekend. Everybody's invited as usual. It's going to be a little bit more challenging because the bridge closed down yesterday, and they actually closed down most of the turnaround, so it's kind of dead ends right there at DMV. So I'm not going to have people, or as many people on the Oregon City side, and yeah, definitely be a little more challenging, but I'm sure we'll figure something out. The other thing I come up here to talk about is the right-of-way fees. I've been sending a few emails around trying to get this put on the agenda. It was talked about back in May. At that time it was supposed to be put on the agenda. It hasn't been yet. I believe the right-of-way fees never should have been implemented. I'm asking the council to look at those and repeal those. I believe, you know, with everybody looking into how many rent-burdened people there are in this community, with almost the highest property taxes in the state, well above Lake Oswego, Westland, Wilsonville, and places like that, adding an extra fee just because they could, which most of the council was different faces at that time than what's up here now, wasn't the right thing to do, and it wasn't good for the citizens of Gladstone. So I'm asking you as a council to look at repealing this. There's enough increases and such that come along that we have to pay. This was just because you could tax. Again, not necessarily you, but people who were sitting in your seats before. So I would ask that you would look into this, put this on the agenda, or vote on this, however it needs to be done, and repeal this. I've been working on an initiative, but my first attempt through, when I sat down with my legal people, I would have undone a lot of the good things in the right-of-way chapter of the charter. Part of that was the standardization and the repairs and such like that, things that I don't want to get rid of and nobody does. So I'm sure you guys would be able to remove that part of it much more skillfully than I. So please consider doing so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Snibble,
Yes.
could we put that on the agenda
Yes,
for
we
not
can.
next month, but the following month? I think next
October?
month yes.
Okay.
I think this attorney stuff going on next month, it might be another busy night.
Okay.
If we can get that on there and we can stop, Bill could stop kicking that can and go on to his next thing he wants to work on.
Okay. I do have a question, though, or concern, is that 3 of the councilors sitting up here were part of the implementation of the right-of-way fees, but the rest of us really don't know what happened in the whole process. So if we could get some documentation as to why it was put in, what the process was, then it would help with have a good productive discussion.
Yeah, so I think if we could plan this for a right-of-way fee discussion for
Okay.
October 8th,
Okay.
That what we can do ahead of time is, one, send all of you a copy of the ordinance that was implemented in 2016, and then we could be prepared to just give you a factual presentation
Perfect.
on, this is how much we collect, this is where it goes, and then if you guys decide to do anything further, at least you have that information.
Right.
Is there
Good.
anything else you can think of that you need?
Yeah, a couple of things for me. So one, I'd like to try to, if staff pulls it or if I have to pull it, I'm fine with that. I'd like to get the documentation or some of the information about what right-of-way fees really are, what the public right-of-way is as an asset and value to cities across the country. I've looked at the state statutes. I think there are a couple of states that don't allow the utility companies to actually pass the fee through as a pass-through cost. Rather, they have to absorb it and figure out how to build it into their bottom line. That's not Oregon's legislative statute. I mean, Chad, you're the attorney. Do you know, there was a couple of states, I believe, that don't allow the utilities to bill directly to the utility customer.
I don't know those states off the top of my head, but it's very possible.
I think
mean,
there's one or
every
two.
state does it differently.
Yeah, and they're all very different, and it's funny because I was trying to figure out where we came up with the term privilege tax. I mean, Mr. Osborne, I think, at some point thought that we had created that language. That's actually the state statute's language. So the state calls it a privilege tax. That's what the Comcast and whomever else does.
That's right.
But, you know, quite frankly, there are plenty of business people in this world that don't get to pass through every cost to their customers. Quite, they end up having to write it
One of
off,
those.
right?
Me? Yeah.
Do you get to pass off every
No,
Okay,
I don't, and I don't get to say
my
it's
feeling
this.
about this is maybe we can deal with this in a different manner. I don't know if the state statute, I mean, we're our own city. I don't know if we're able to say, oh, you know what, if you're doing business in our city, these are some of the terms. Pie in the sky, ridiculous. I just think that it's such a valuable asset that cities have to capture their right-of-ways, and they have to be able to, I mean, we have to be valid with our citizens and go to them and say, look, we're capturing, people are paying for the asset, and these utility companies are utilizing the asset. So, yeah, if we can get some information so that we can look at the historical ordinance, also, you know, I'll pull the statutes myself and just kind of get a little bit of a primer about what right-of-way fees are, because I agree with Councilor Ripley. It'd be good for us to finish this conversation.
I think we can do that, and also there's a difference between franchise fees and right-of-way
Correct.
tax.
Right.
So I think if we could have an educational session first, and then you guys can decide where you want to go from there.
Okay.
And I was part of that when we did that, and I have no problem with going back and reviewing and
Perfect.
looking at some different avenues.
Good.
So I am in support of us doing this.
Good.
Thank you. I'm on board with Councilor Neese.
Okay. Is that all right, Councilor Mercero? Bring this
Okay
up
with
in
me.
October? Councilor Todd? Good, yeah, I think we need information to have a good conversation about that, for sure. Any other cards?
Nope, that's
Nope.
it.
All right, so next is business from the council. We'll start with Councilor Ripley.
We did have a meeting with Jackie and the police chief and our traffic safety chairperson, and discussions of making restructuring the traffic safety, because like everything else, they're kicking the can down the road, and it's the same discussion. So we're having Chief Schmerber kind of build us a new outline of how things will get handled and how we can stop some of the same conversations from happening over and over again. I'm sure he'll have that for us at our next meeting, right?
Be put on the spot.
Yeah.
That's about all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Neese?
I haven't done a whole lot this last month, and I will share with everyone, my husband had a major heart attack and in fact died, and they had to bring him back. So my month of July has not been very good. And I did attend the library board meeting and to help out Councilor Reisner, because he could not attend, and it was a very good meeting, and there's some additional information that's going to be coming, and Jackie has been meeting with the county on that. So that's kind of where I am.
All right, Councilor Tracy.
Kudos to everybody involved with the festival. I think that we represented the town really well. I heard nothing but real positive comments from local citizens as well as the visitors. I think that the layout of the park was nice this year. It was a little bit bigger, I think, in the beer garden. Not that I know anybody that was involved with the beer garden. But I think everybody, my understanding was everybody was very decent to each other, and I think, given our times these days, that's a plus. And so I'm proud to live in a community, most proud to represent the citizens of the community who treat each other truly as neighbors and are concerned about their neighbors. So congratulations to the staff and everybody involved with the festival.
Councilor Reisner?
Nothing.
What? Wait a minute, I'm going to ask that again. Councilor Reisner?
Not this evening, it's all yours.
Councilor Todd?
I just wanted to thank everybody for the festival, for everything that they put in. It was probably the most fun that I've had since taking on the parade. This whole weekend, that whole weekend, I just had so much fun. My favorite thing was seeing Jackie and the street sweeper at the very end steering this thing. I had no idea that was happening, but she had control of this thing at the end.
There are two steering wheels. She wasn't really steering.
She looked like she was ready to go. It was awesome. And I wanted to thank Chief Schmerber for letting me be a squeaky wheel too a little bit. And I want to thank you for doing the pedestrian crossing safety thing, because it's important. I walk downtown every day, and, you know, the fact that there were little sandwich boards up telling people that it was coming, and you still got some people. I mean, that's a little crazy. So I was just, I'm just thrilled that you did that. Thank you.
Councilor Mistro?
I would like to say thank you to our new police chief and fire chief. As a liaison for the police department and the fire department, they made me very welcome. So we have a good conduit, both directions, and I really appreciate that. So the planning commission liaison, we haven't had a meeting lately for the planning commission, but I'm sure we will do bigger and better things.
Don't we have one coming up?
Yeah, it's next week. Your packets come out tomorrow.
Yep,
I'm excited about that one. Okay. That's it?
that's it.
Well, I'm just going to mirror what everyone else is saying, is that the community festival was absolutely amazing. And it was just, like Matt said, just the sense of community and bringing everybody together. It was just a really happy gathering. I mean, I don't know if I can say it any different than that. It was just, the only people that were stressed were the handful of people that were putting it on, but the rest of us got to enjoy it, and it was wonderful. So I'm sure that the people that put it on would love volunteers. So if you know of anybody that would like to help next year, Dr. Bob's right there, as soon as possible.
Even though we are stressed, at the end, I love every minute.
It was amazing. I did not hear one person whine. It was great. It was great, yeah. And then this last week was National Night Out. We only had 4 parties this year, which was kind of sad. I went to all of them. Jackie Betts went to all of them, the fire department and the police department. And next year, you guys need to go. It was so neat. And I met more people that were brand new to Gladstone and moved here for a reason, is because they wanted that small town. And their love for the city in such a short period of time is absolutely undeniable. It was wonderful.
Is it always that first Monday?
It's the first Tuesday in
Okay.
August.
Okay.
But I think the group is talking about maybe formatting it different next year. But oh my gosh, what a bunch of incredible people, and I've got some of them volunteering already. So the Parks and Rec meeting was last night, and the RC car group came and spoke, which was wonderful, because we thought they were just down there vandalizing the crud out of the park, but they're actually somewhat organized. Had a great conversation about what their vision is, what the Parks Board vision kind of sort of is. They're open about even maybe relocating to another area in the park, because where they are now is pretty prime riverfront property. So maybe there's a higher and best use for that spot. But I think it was a really great conversation. Mindy Garlington's in the back. She's on the Parks Board. But, you know, they're trying to get everybody that uses the park to come in and actually start creating formal agreements so that it's not just random free-for-all down there. The only other thing I had was just to make sure that we keep that emergency plan on the burner in the front so that if something happens again, we know what to do and we're all on top of it. That's all I had. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Counselor Tracy, seconded by Counselor Neese. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:14.